G'day, Bomber fans. Quick turnaround. We have a game tomorrow by the time you're watching this. I'm recording it a little bit early, by the way, so any information that is outdated, blame it on that. What we've just learnt, though, is that we have an 11th debutant. Big Vigo Vicentini is playing his first game for the club, going up against Sean Darcy and Luke Jackson, so that is going to be fun for him. Big test up in Perth for the Bombers. No one's really expecting a win. What we want to see is a much improved effort and to make the Dockers sweat a bit. We gave it to the Lions, we gave it to the Blues, we struggled against the Cats, to say the least. And the Dockers, I think it's probably safe to say that they're closer to Carlton than Geelong. So the expectation here is to go out and not get absolutely pantsed this week. We'll see though, big test, big Thursday night game, but first some votes. Alrighty, votes from that disaster class against Geelong. The clear best on ground was Will Setterfield. He picked up 3 from both of us. Old Gold picked up a few, and so did Zach Johnson. His first vote for the club, which is fun. Archie Roberts amongst it as well, and the role player was Matt Guelphy. His votes for the first votes for the year. The overall tally: Nick Martin is still in the lead ahead of Zachary Merritt. A bit of a gap from there. You've got Dersma, Durham, Caldwell, Reed, and Wright, all on double digits. Will Setterfield has leapt into the top 10. He is equal with Andy McGrath, and then Old Gold joins the crew. He rounds out the 10. There are about 300 players on the same votes as Old Gold, but he's the oldest of the lot, so keep up the votes, everyone. Okay, Fremantle versus Essendon, Optus Stadium, Thursday night footy. Can I just say, there are games that we all look forward to on the calendar when the fixture releases every year. This isn't one of them. I guess there have been some great games between the two teams, though. Last year, we beat the Dockers in a thriller by 1 point. That was really fun. But most of the time, I don't know, it's just another game in the season. Usually, the Bombers do get the job done. We've won 7 of the last 10, including a few away from home. But this year, we are a poor side with lots of injuries, and the Dockers are pretty good and pretty fit for the most part, at least compared to Essendon. So yeah, the Dockers with the home ground advantage, the better team on paper, the better run on form. They go in heavy favourites. Really, for many, it's about how much we lose by. That is the feeling going around after the Geelong game. And in case you're living under a rock and you don't know the result of the Geelong game, we lost by 95 points. That is a lot, not great. We've lost 3 in a row. The Dockers have won 4 in a row. There's clearly one team that should be winning this game, realistically. Yeah, I think the Dockers should win this, but it doesn't mean they will. So let's look at our opponents. Okay, Freo, really tough team to get a read on. A month ago, they were getting absolutely pantsed by the Saints. They had 7 points at halftime against St Kilda. And then a few weeks later, they're beating the Suns at Metricon. I don't know. They're such a bad team at their worst. They're boring. They're abysmal. They're a laughingstock. And then at their best, you think that they're premiership contenders. They're one of the best teams in the comp. They beat amazing teams away from home. It's so hard to get a read on Fremantle. You just never know what Fremantle team is going to turn up, and I guess that's why it's fair that they're in 8th on the ladder. I think that's probably around where I think they sit as a club if you round out their performances, and that's a funny range for us because, aside from the Bulldogs who always prey on bad clubs, we haven't really played many teams of that range. We haven't played the Suns, we haven't played the Giants. We've been very good at beating teams that we are better than, and we've challenged teams, better than us, and then you move up the ladder to Collingwood, Geelong, and Adelaide, the best teams, and yeah, there's no challenge there. Fremantle, where do they sit in that? Are they a great club? Are they a good club? I don't know. I don't think they're going to be winning a flag. They're not going to be going deep in September. I think in a lot of ways, despite the Dockers clearly being the better side, I think the way they play may actually suit Essendon right now. I don't think we're going to win this game, spoiler alert, but I wouldn't be surprised if we gave the Dockers a bit of a scare. Alrighty, let's start with some positives. There's real star power in this team. That midfield is very strong. Sarong and Brayshaw is a great duo. Some will say one-dimensional. I think Shai Bolton really comes in and helps improve the outlook of that midfield and really brings the best out of Sarong and Brayshaw when he's playing well. Jackson and Darcy in the ruck, baptism of fire for young Vigo. I'll talk about him later, but that is rough. Then they've got threats up forward. Tracy, Bolton on ground level when he's there. You've got Jordan Clark giving them run out of the back half. They've got some great players, Fremantle. They're a really measured and rounded side. They are very slow. I'll get to that. But at their best, they do just break teams down. Good teams too, not just anyone. They do really well to restrict the chances that forward lines get against them. I remember the Adelaide game. Adelaide's one of the best forward lines in the comp, but it barely had a look against the Dockers. Same with Gold Coast. They've really improved their defence in recent years, and it makes them look better up forward because they now have less scoreboard pressure to work against. They've got some really good bodies and also good role players around the ground which get the job done. When I think of, I think Geelong, right, from last week, every single player in that 23 just gets the job done. There are no weak links. They rarely let themselves down. And of course, the same can't be said about Freo. There are definitely weak links, but they've got quite a few unknown squad members who are going to be known to us Bomber fans after Thursday night for their efforts. Switkowski, who's out of the game, is a perfect example. This is a guy that doesn't get talked about enough, but he's just a great role player. I like Corey Wagner as well, and Matt Johnson. I haven't seen heaps of them, but these guys, I notice them when I watch Fremantle. They're just tough players who go out and give it a crack. They've got a few of those players who can lift a team with solo defensive efforts. The issue with Freo, and I'm sure if there are any Rogue fans here, they'll come in and agree, but they're a slow team. They've got real X factor about them in some areas. Bolton's great, Frederick, Clark, but they do move the ball slowly and they're not amazing to watch. They're pretty not easy to defend, but you can definitely set up against them, and that probably works in our favour because we don't really have a back six at the moment. I feel like they go from A to B with little spark compared to other teams, and maybe I'm picking games that they're not amazing in. I haven't watched heaps of Fremantle this year, but yeah, they're not a team that really do proper damage when it counts, I think, and that is perfect for a game like this because this game doesn't count for anything. It's perfect for the Dockers, obviously, but yeah, they're cruising right now. They don't need a statement win. This is a perfect game for them to turn up and kick a big score. But yeah, again, they're 100% a team that can fluctuate in form. They were poor against North last week. They barely won that game. They probably shouldn't have won that game. Whereas the game before that, they beat the Suns at Metricon. Their form rarely makes sense. They're a journo's nightmare because, 1 week they're cooked, they're finished, they got to rebuild, they got to sack their coach, and then another week they're pushing for top 4, they're on the right track, they're going to win a flag. It's just tough to know what Freo are going to dish up. And really, in a game like this, that is the defining factor. Like, so much could happen in this game, but really, if we go out and give 100%, we play out of our skin, we can still lose. This matchup, the result really does depend on whether Freo turn up the way they did last week against the Roos and the Saints, or if they show up like they did against the Crows. They're very, very good at their best. Very hard to beat at their best, but they are a very bad team at their worst as well. All right, but luckily for the Dockers, they would have to be... I don't know how they would blow this game, realistically. And this is the last time I'm going to say this, by the way, because we are getting reinforcements back soon after the bye. But we are a complete mess of a team right now. Like, there's just, it's not really a criticism. That's just me acknowledging what we've got going against us. And... if you take away Fremantle's 4 best key defenders, their 2 best rucks, their leading goal scorer for the last 2 years, one of their prime inside midfielders, and then on top of that, take away 7 or so depth options as well that could replace those players, they'd be putrid. They'd also lose games by 95 points. I think most teams would struggle, to say the least, if you take away those players. Realistically, we are just crap until we get some players back in. And after the bye, I think we get back Redmond and Durham, definitely. I think Ridley and Langford too, so that'll help. But this week, it's another one where we got to line up with a ruck in defence. First game is around the ground. There are going to be some incredibly weird mismatches. There'll be kids playing who shouldn't be playing. Like, if you put our 23 that we're going to line up with this week against North or West Coast, I don't know who'd win, and I'm never going to tip the Bombers if we're lining up with so many players that just aren't ready to play at this level. And I guess that's the fun thing about this year. We're giving exposure to players early. That is good for development for those individuals. Lawal, Vigo, Day Wicks, Blackiston, May, these guys wouldn't be close to playing if we were fully fit, and throw in guys like Laverty and even Pryor, like these stopgaps who are playing their role right now but aren't really huge parts of our future. The way I see it, looking at the Geelong game, I count 6 of those players in our 23 that are ready-made. The rest are stopgap players or developing youngsters, and that is just not going to cut it against any team, but that is the situation we're in. Yeah, look, for me, this isn't a game that I'm going into really thinking about a win or a result. I think we can win, but really, like, we could go out and lose by 150 points, and if the reason that we lose by that much is because Luke Jackson and Josh Tracy are taking speckies on our waffle ruckman, who's a key defender for this game, and Jaden Laverty, like, you can't really control that. If we go out and lose by 20 points, but the reason we lose is because the areas of the ground that we could control, we're not controlling, I'd be mad. You know, that's the weird thing about a game like this, is that it isn't really one that you can properly focus on a margin in. And that's, I guess, the Geelong game has taught us that. You know, 95 points is really bad. But the thing I hated about it most is that there were areas of the ground that we could have controlled that we didn't. You know, I didn't care that Jeremy Cameron got off the leash. I didn't care that Shannon Neal got off the leash. That was always going to happen. But there were things about that game that we could have controlled that we didn't. So again, that is what I'm going to be looking out for, while I'm also looking out for young players. You know, I think there'll be team changes. But the good news is, you know, we're seeing guys in our team who will stay there. Like, there are already 5 first or second year players that are concrete best 23 options. Caddy, Kako, Roberts, Johnson and Clark. I think those guys are going to be playing a lot of footy with us. So we're going to watch them and see what more they can do to impress us. Because even when numbers return, I think those 5 will stay. But then it's the guys around them that will hopefully join that group. You know, what can Archer May do? Can he put up his hand to be a partner to Caddy? Can Lual or Day Wicks keep their spot and impress? Can Vigo announce himself on debut? I know it's annoying to say this every week, but there are lots of young players in this game who we're going to be looking out for with glimpses. And that is just the state of the team at the moment. Like, there are some players who are just not ready for a full game of footy, Vigo included. I don't think he's ready to play AFL footy this year. He was taught a bit of a lesson by Mark Pidnett in the ruck in the VFL the other week, but that's just where we're at, where we're having to play these guys. And yes, it is pretty bad on a week-to-week basis, because we're going into a game with about, I don't know how many players not ready to play, but it's great for those individuals because it gives them a chance to learn, against their opponent. And this, it creates an opportunity for young players to show that they might be options for us in the future with these glimpses. It's a pretty brutal period, you know. There's obviously been some brutal losses, but without it, I don't think we would have seen the responsibility given to Johnson and Clark and others. And now for me, I think we need to just keep rolling with those guys until we end the year. All right, team news, starting with Fremantle. They've got some players on the mend, but I don't think they'll be rushed in. It might just be the one change. It might be Sam Switkowski, who's injured, and maybe Asai Dudley could return. I don't know. As for the Bombers, we've announced another debutant. Vigo Vicentini will be rucking. Todd Goldstein is being rested off a 5-day break. That is a big age gap. I think Vigo's almost half his age. So that'll bring our average age down a lot, because I think we're such a young team every week, but we're never the youngest because we've always got a 90-year-old ruckman in our team. But this week, I think, we're going to be pretty young on paper. The question is, though, you know, how many changes do we make after that? And do we bring in some more experience to, you know, give us some help? I think Dylan Shield surely is in line to come back in. I'd be taking Archer Day Wicks out. I've liked the glimpses. I think he's done enough for me to, obviously he's got another contract, but I like him. I just don't think he's ready for AFL footy right now, you know, or at least consecutive games. I'd like to see him back in the VFL. He's got enough exposure as it is. I think Lual's probably the same. Could he come out in place of a Sardis or a Hobbs? I don't know. I don't think we'll be dropping Perkins or anyone like that. I don't think, just because, you know, we don't have heaps on the outside as it is. I think those are the changes we make. But then again, I didn't expect May or Blackiston to play last week. So, it's gotten to a stage of the year. I was really good early with the team calls. I was nailing it early, but now as it's gone on and it's just gotten too unpredictable for me to get a grasp on. All right, prediction. Look, I wouldn't be surprised if we win. I think, you know, Freo they're not an amazing side. At their best, they're great. At their worst, they're a bit of a mess. It just depends what Fremantle we get, you know. We might get the top 4 Fremantle. We might get bottom 4 Fremantle. Who knows? It's hard to get a read on them. But I think even if they were at their worst, it would take an abysmal effort for them to lose against this side. Like that would be almost season defining for them if they lose against us. So I'm going to tip the Dockers. I don't think it's a right old belting. You know, I think 6 goals, maybe a bit more. I'd be pretty annoyed if it's another big loss, but, you know, I think the boys will try and respond. I don't think it'll be successful, the response. But I think there'll be real effort around the contest this week. So, yeah, that is that preview done. I'll have a team selection video out tomorrow. No player ratings, by the way. I was sick, so I didn't get one done. Apologies for that. Interesting game, this one. I don't know. It could go many ways. I'm just keen to see the young kids. I'm keen to see Vigo. I'm a big fan of Vigo. I like the way he goes about it. And I like a good alliteration name. Vigo Vicentini. There's got to be more in the team, surely. Vigo Vicentini. That's it for now that I can think of. Anyway, more glimpses from the kids, more debutants. It's good to see. Hopefully, we somehow scrape a win. That would be fun, wouldn't it? A win would really just get us all up and about. A win and Kako kicks 5, Caddy kicks 10, Vigo Rising Star nomination. I don't know. Anyway, enough yapping. Cheers for watching, Bomber fans. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and as always, go Bombers.